Looks like we have Jim. Good. Jim's back with us.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm having trouble with my audio.
Okay, I see you're on a nasal cannula, oxygen. Steve's here. We're just looking for Denny, I believe. Hey, Steve. So. So it is 7 o'clock, so I'm going to get the meeting started. All set recording, Mr. McCarthy?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Welcome to Marquette Township's regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting. It is Wednesday, December, there's Denny. Wednesday, November the 11th, 2020. It is 7 p.m. So with that, Secretary Wiegand, would you lead the roll call, please?
Yes. Steve?
Steve Haken, Lake Enchantment Trail.
Right. Steve Wiegand, Brookton Road. Yeah, Dennis?
Dennis Ferraro, 238 Eagles Nest Road.
Jim?
We just lost him. He was here a minute ago. Mike Springer, 206 Eagles Nest Road.
Well, we've got everybody here. Jim is fading in and out with video problems.
Okay. All right, next thing is the approval of the agenda. I understand Mr. Wiegand would like to add something.
I do. I would like to add under unfinished business 7, I would like to add a Fox Chevy lighting update.
Okay, Fox Chevy lighting. Okay, thank you. I also, under reports, I guess we should put it under E or F. Just actually, I'm sorry, there's a F already there, a G. So it'd be reports 9G, and it would just be DDA update. They met last night. So with that, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Who will make that?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Jim, second? Or who seconded?
Denny.
Jim,
Yeah. Okay.
Denny, I can hear you now.
All right.
Great.
So we have Wiegand, Ferraro, and now we just need to call the question.
Okay, the motion is to approve the agenda as amended, and I made the motion. I'm a yes. Dennis?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve? Steve?
Yes. Yes.
And Mike.
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Right. The next item on our agenda, meetings, minutes from the previous meeting, on October 14th. So I didn't see anything that I questioned or. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes from October 14th?
I so move.
Motion. All right, I'll make that motion.
I move.
And that was Jim?
That was Jim.
Okay, thank you. So,
Do we have support for that?
Yeah,
Second,
Jim Johnson.
Okay.
Okay, you want to call the question, please?
Yeah, the motion is to approve the minutes as presented. The motion maker was Steve Heikkinen.
No, that was Springer.
Oh, you made the motion?
Steve was
Okay.
too slow.
too slow.
We can make it
That's
Steve.
slow.
I'm okay with
Okay,
that.
the motion maker was Mike Springer. You are a
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah. Yes.
And it was supported by Jim,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes,
Dennis,
Yes,
and myself is a yes, 5-0.
Hey, at this point, I don't see any public. Do we have any emails from the staff? Public comment? Okay, seeing that. Yes, Mr.
I
Reed.
have had a communication with a resident on Brookton Road that prompted the discussion on the Fox Chevy lighting, and I can share that when we get down to that agenda item.
Very good. Let's do that then. Okay, that would move us on to new business, and we have two items here, A and B, that I'm going to turn to McCarthy because apparently we don't have anything back from the county, which would mean that,
Yeah, there's no real reason to discuss this tonight. As we discussed at our last meeting, we put this on the agenda in the chance that the county would have gotten back to us by now. They have not yet, so we'll have to push this to the December 9th meeting.
okay, so that would be both for 6A and 6B.
Correct.
All right. That moves us on to 6C, draft.
Good, Mike?
Yes, sir.
We're moving it to December 9th because we're not have this the last meeting in November.
We only have one meeting in November and December of every year.
Okay.
So one more meeting left of the Planning Commission this year. Okay.
And that's the same for the 6B.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, we were hoping to be able to take some, well, to allow the planning commission to decide whether they wanted to take some action tonight based on their comments, but we do need to wait for those comments before we make that recommendation. So we'll wait.
All right. Let's move on. C, draft medical and adult use recreational marijuana board ordinance discussion.
Yeah, we put this in the packet for you guys. This has pretty much been fleshed out, but we wanted you to see, just for your reference, a copy of the final draft, I guess it were. And so this will come into play again at our next meeting as well. If you have any questions on it, you feel free to ask. Otherwise, it was really included again in the chance that we would have been able to take some action on the other items tonight, 6A and 6B. But you know, this has been something that we've been working on for quite some time, and you know, with Roger's assistance and your comment and the volley back and forth on some provisions, this is a pretty good document. And actually, the document covers both the adult recreational use and the medical marijuana. So it's there didn't have to be two separate board ordinances, which was nice. So if you'll notice, that's been condensed into one document, and all of the discussion points and items should be addressed. And if they're not, for some reason, if you find anything between now and December, feel free to reach out to staff. But we've reviewed it, and it seems to be in lockstep with the direction that the planning commission had previously taken.
Jason, I had a question, please.
Go ahead,
Jason, you had a question for Jason. So, and Ryan, I guess, too. So Roger Zappa has signed off on this version that you have here?
That's correct. Yeah, he provided us with a red line addition that, you know, I believe his staff dictates. But we asked them for a clean version based on review of that, and that's what's been provided to you as a, you know, if you were to move forward at the next meeting with both the, you know, Article 2 and Article 15 amendments, then you can also send that along to the board with the recommendation of, you know, and then obviously staff and Dave or whoever the board rep is at the time will be able to chime in, and certainly staff will probably present that to the board, but you know, it's kind of a two-step process. So there's the board ordinance, and then there's the zoning ordinance revisions that make that, would make that available for opportunities to develop.
Thank you, Jason.
Mike?
Mr. Wiegand.
Yeah, I would hope that we could move this as well as the other two text amendments to the board at the meeting at the 9th. I don't see any problem with the board ordinance. I would hope we could move all three. Two of them are first, and recommend that board ordinance for approval by the board at their next meeting after December 9th.
Okay, do you want to?
That would put it in the first meeting in January. Pardon?
Do you want an action item on that, or?
No, if you just want to
Okay.
move them all forward to the December
We'll
9th.
make sure that, okay. That sounds good to me. Okay. 6D, we have the Eagle non-point source grant application update.
I would turn this over to Ryan, him and Lenny, and really put this together. And thanks to Mike for bringing, you know, getting the board involved. Certainly, I don't think it would be where it's at without your, you know, leadership there, Mike. So I know Ryan's been working hard on it. They submitted it last Friday, and Ryan, go ahead and detail that out.
Yeah, I'm good at getting things started, but guys like Ryan are the ones that reach the goal.
Everybody did, because it was pretty technical grant application. So it took a pretty good team to get it all situated and sent out, which we did send it out last Friday on the 6th. But yeah, I mean, he went to the virtual webinar. We were all, you know, turned into the fact that this would be a really good opportunity, or at least see if it would be a really good opportunity to coordinate with the County Road Commission and Superior Watershed Partnership, which is exactly what we did. So if successful, the grant funds would help create a project that would be in conjunction with the County Road Commission's Ontario Phase 2, slated to start sometime in spring, early summer of 21. And what it would essentially do is allow for the removal and replacement of 4 extremely undersized culverts on Montgomery, Norwood, Huron, and Erie, in addition to a number of bioswales being installed, new ditching, wetland areas, plantings, riparian enhancements, and kind of like erosion control projects. So we sent that out on Friday. That was the deadline. We got all the hard copies and the digital sent into Eagle, and you know, we'll make sure to keep everybody updated between now and hearing back, you know, when Eagle makes their final decision, which hopefully we know sometime in early spring of 21. Together real quick with you know, Manager Kangas and Jason and Lenny. Everyone really had a really good hand in it, and we got it out the door in time.
Well, thanks to you, Mr. Houston, and also Mr. McCarthy for making that happen. So,
You too, Mike.
unfinished business. Mr. Wiegand, we have Fox Chevy Lighting, and also something from the public on Brookton Road.
Yeah, and I asked for this to be on the agenda so I could update the commission, number one, and update any public that might be out there. And because it was a complaint received by a resident, I don't think there's any planning commission action items to be taken here because I think it's an enforcement issue at this point. And I believe Jason is working on that. But I received a call from a resident on Sunday night to complain about the lights that were on. And apparently this is going to be an ongoing issue with Fox Chevy with their lighting. And they have returned and considered with the earlier sunsets. The lights are coming on earlier and the problem is becoming more prevalent. And Fox has apparently decided that in as much as Article 19, Section 19.22, paragraph C8 states that all non-security exterior lighting shall be controlled by either a timer or photoelectric switch to be turned off during hours when the business is unoccupied. Fox has decided that in as much as they have cleaners in there in the evening and they have occasional mechanics in there working on vehicles, that the building is occupied and therefore they're leaving their lights on all night. All the lights go on from dusk to dawn.
Oh, crap.
And so that's exactly what they've done. They started last Friday and they're on every night and they don't go off until the morning.
That's a losing argument.
Pardon?
That's a losing argument.
Well,
Beg to differ.
according to the lawyer, not quite, but
Huh?
in essence, they've just told our residents and the township in general that they'll do as they please, and we're going to drive that point home by turning our lights on. There's no reason in this world that they could make that
It's a
decision.
bit
But
of speculation, Dave. They made some adjustments to the lighting timers this past week, which led to the lights being on, unfortunately, throughout the weekend. I've been observing that site for a while, and it's been pretty dark at night for a long time there. I'm not defending them by any means, but they are working towards a solution because what was approved in a photometric plan wasn't what was installed. And it's been a volley back and forth. They're on top of, well, I wouldn't say they're extremely on top of it, but I have had, I'm not talking to the local people. I'm talking to, their property managers and things like that up in this area coming down. I'm going to send out a letter to the adjacent residents that they're working through the issue. They are going to be doing something along the south property line and the southwesterly property line to dial back what's there. They have turned off the lights that are on the southwestern portion. There is an issue with the lights as you move east past the rear access drive. There's a topography elevation change in there. And so what might have been, 0-foot candles at the property line on their photometric plan just doesn't work because you have an elevation change, which puts those lights another 15 feet in the air. I'm not defending them, but, to say that they're, looking at us and saying they're not doing anything about it, that's not true. I don't feel the need to share every email with you guys, but there's been a lot of back and forth. I let them know that there was a letter sent out giving them 30 days. There's a process to enforcement. And we have had this rule in place for 10 years since I've been here, and that's ask, help, and then cite. So we gave them 30 days. There's going to be a letter going out tomorrow that'll give them the final notice of 30 days. And then we can take enforcement action from the legal standpoint. But you have to give them the opportunity to work it out. Obviously, the final notice, I'm sure, either it's going to get taken care of or they're going to challenge it. So we'll see what happens then. But they have taken some measures to address the neighbors' concerns. They will address the neighbors' concerns. They've committed to that from the very beginning, both at the Fox Subaru dealership here out in front and at the Chevy dealership. I know that there's some uneasiness and people are upset about it, but we are working on it. And I believe in the end, there's been these little rinky dink lights over there for years. Well, now they're a modern dealership with some capital behind them, and they invested about $50,000 into lighting scheme. They're going to have to invest a little bit more to correct it, but I truly believe that they are working to resolve it. I'm just hoping that it happens sooner than later and litigation is not involved.
I guess
Line that we walk, but they are aware that we are pursuing enforcement.
I don't want to argue the issue with you, but I question their sincerity and how they're addressing the issue. And I think that the first thing we should do, and I think we can do it all right, you'd have to check with legal, is we should change the references in that section when a business is occupied to when a business is not open to walk-in retail customers. That resolves.
Would be a good measure, and that's something that you and I discussed on the phone last night.
Yeah.
But there's other dealerships that aren't around residential, and they're claiming also that they're not, getting the same kind of treatment. I have explained that they have residential zoning and land use abutting them, and that is a clear difference in the ordinance as opposed to a commercially zoned property that's not surrounded by anything else but commercially zoned property. It's kind of like the buffer yard thing, if you have like land uses next to you, then you don't necessarily have to take a whole lot of steps to buffer that. In this case, they're being made aware, and we're being kind of a headache to them, and that's good. That's what public policy and law and zoning is for. And regardless of what my opinions are on it, I'm going to enforce the ordinance that this body and previous bodies have put together, and they're aware of that as well.
And I don't have a lot of sympathy for them in that respect, because the instances where it requires that the lights be off when the business is not occupied is strictly in reference to those properties that are located adjacent to residentially zoned areas. So that's where they're addressed, and that's where they chose us. And if they didn't know all the ins and outs of that, that's their issue. We've dealt with them all the way from Fox Subaru until Fox Chevy, and they always throw themselves on the mercy of the planning commission because they just didn't know. And they getting paid big dollars down there. Somebody should know something. I think that we can make those changes in those two areas that say that when the business is unoccupied, and we can change it to say something when a business is not open for walk-in retail. Both of those areas where that phrase appears is in reference to adjacent to residential property. And I think we should clarify that, and I think we could do it in this text amendment that we're preparing, because this is nothing more than a clarification. It is not a change.
I'm not going to agree with that. I think that
Okay.
Get legal's advice on that. I appreciate.
Well, and I guess that's what I'm suggesting. But in spite of all that, the lights being turned on and off when they're supposed to be turned on and off, there's a bunch of other issues there that need to be addressed as well. And I know they went out and put the shields on. The shields are totally ineffective. Anybody that just has to drive down there when it's dark and the street is lit up and the residents' homes are lit up. And we have lights that they installed on the north side of the property on US 41 that shine all the way over and light up the houses on Brookton Road. Is that ridiculous? And I think that issue needs to be addressed. And I don't think they can argue the point that it says that the trespass light is not allowed. That light needs to stop at the property line. That's what their photoelectric plan said, and that's what they need to be held to. The other thing that I've noticed since they turned all their lights on is the Section 19 or Article 19, Section 1922, paragraph C7, which addresses luminaries attached to the building, shall be limited to the height necessary for illumination of entrances or locations not served by pole lighting. Now, they've got about 5 or 6 of those bright lights at the eve of their buildings, that are shining down into that area right adjacent to the building, that they should be limited to just what it says in the zoning ordinance. They should be limited to those lights that are necessary to light up the doors of entrance, and there's only 2 on that side. So I don't see why they need 5. I guess I'm getting a little frustrated with dealing with these guys because they've been a problem since they started Fox Subaru, and they're just not very responsive to the needs. And I've said my piece. Planning Commission knows about it. I really doubt, I think these guys are going to be the same when spring comes. When we go back to daylight savings time, it'll be the same thing.
Dave, I had a question for you. At the beginning, when you started talking about it, you cited Article 19, Section 19, and then another subsection as if that was put in some kind of a argument to you by Fox Subaru. Did they put something in writing?
No,
you?
not to me. Not to me.
To who did they put that? To Jason?
Mhm.
Okay.
Also gonna say that they've had vandalism and theft, and they have the right to light up their property. They're gonna argue that they've got people in there all times of the day and night. And I said, you know, the lights, you know, the security lighting adjacent to the building is one thing, but I don't think that they need to display the entire dealership. But they've had 2 vehicles stolen, a bunch of others vandalized. They should probably try, and I've suggested that they try some additional security measures. They had people patrolling. They had the sheriff sitting there for a while, which is no good either because they're taken away from other things. But yeah, they have to do something else. And we will get to the bottom of it and we'll get it resolved. And I appreciate Dave's comments. And I know that there's other comments that he's relaying on behalf of some of the neighbors there. We're working on it.
And I don't believe the hours that our lights are on would be as major an issue as it is if they restricted their lights to the property line. The fact that they flood over the property line by such a great extent, not just lighting up Brookton Road, Brookton Road all the way down the road, but they're over there, the sides of the houses on the residents on the other side of Brookton Road are lit up.
Mhm.
Which
I agree. That was
that's not even close.
to them, is that if they were in compliance with the ordinance, there would be no arguments that would be valid from the neighbors because we could demonstrate that you were in compliance. They agree that they're not in compliance. They understand that. They're trying to go back to their lighting contractor and make them fix it. You know, and then that trickles down to Wright Electric, who is the one that, you know, obviously installed things. You know, you've got the people that are telling them what to do, the designer of the system, and then the installers of the system. They all have to be in lockstep. And there's been some, much like the other contractors on the Subaru site, there's been some discord there. And, you know, unfortunately, we have to work through it.
Okay, well, my rant's done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. It's frustrating. I look down my driveway, I can see security lighting now behind Subaru. It's not, you know, it's not great. Obviously the leaves are down now. I'm thankful that I don't live across the street from, you know, on Brookton Road. But we will resolve the issue as we have with just about everything that's come our way over the last decade, and we'll get to the bottom of it. So
Well, again, my frustration is not just this instance. My frustration has been the dealings that the Planning Commission has had with Fox all the way down the line since they started the Fox Subaru. Everything is an issue. Everything gets blamed on somebody else. Nobody steps up and says, we got to fix this and this is what we're going to fix. They don't do that. They sit and point fingers and try and get the guy on the low end of the totem pole, in this case, Wright Electric.
they haven't said
Come on,
that,
fix it.
but they do say it to me.
I mean, I remember when they come in and every presentation they've made, they they've said what a community-oriented business they are and how well they need to mesh into the community. And it is directly the opposite, straight down the line since they entered the township. And I think that says everything you can expect out of Fox that is not going to happen unless there's some pressure put on them. And here I am ranting again. I said I was done, right?
You're allowed to rant, Dave. That's what makes.
We'll give you another chance to rant later, Dave, when it comes up to the road committee. But unless there's somebody else that wants to make comment about Fox lighting, let's move on to correspondence. We have, I want to thank Mr. Diedertson and Mr. McCarthy for two excellent hard copies of certainly our master plan, and then also the results of MSU's climate and health and adaptation projects final report. So I'm not sure if either planner would like to discuss those with us. Or...
Let's make a few remarks. The master plan is something that we do every 5 years. I'm proud of the fact that I work in a community where we take that seriously and we stay up on top of our medium to long range planning. We're checking the pulse of the community with community surveys. We're doing some forward thinking planning. This is more in regards to the MSU project, but the master plan is something that we have to do, right? It's required by state law, but it's also something that's very responsible to do. And I'm literally pleased with the way that this turned out again. And Ryan's been a big help since he's come on. Isaac obviously had some work in it, but really it's you guys, the planning commission, in conjunction with your committees that make this possible. We're just the facilitators of your ideas and the policies. And then you have the public input, which is obviously very important. So I think they're two good documents. I think we can stack these up against anybody in the UP and feel comfortable with where we're going in our long range planning. And the other document from MSU, is going to come in handy in the future. Whether or not, we're able to tap into anything, no pun intended there, into these, highway projects that are ongoing. I think the DDA is going to continue to mature and grow in at least their planning efforts. And so, these documents provide really nice conceptual renderings and planning philosophies for how to, redesign things to make it more sustainable and user-friendly and aesthetically pleasing over time. So I'll get into the mini grant after, towards the end of our agenda here as an update. But, one of the images, the Pete's Pass image, will be used in a grant application that will be submitted next week. And although it's a mini grant, we're going to do like a sign kiosk, which will be educational, and hopefully it'll be a multi-panel kiosk where if you see them on the trails there, they kind of have, my hands in that. So be kind of like this, where you'd have multiple panels. One of them obviously will be dedicated to the education of, how this site was made and how it was improved upon, and things that the public can do to help encourage that. So it's just a $4,000 grant, but we thought it would tie in nicely and dovetail with the other kiosks and other scope items that we are required to install on either end of the underpass, which will be obviously a bench, the recycled plastic and the recycled plastic sign kiosk, the recycled plastic trash and recycling receptacles. So that'll go in nicely there. And it's a small token, I guess, or a start to what's presented in that study document. But those other components and those other sites, hopefully, will become part of the DDA's master plan as they move forward with some planning and some projects that they're looking at. So I just wanted to say great job again by the Planning Commission. and by the public. We've had really good, I think, outreach, and that's evidenced by the success of our road millage. It's evidenced by the success of our recent recreation millage. When we're able to do long-range planning and you take a look at the master plan at Lions Field, or you take a look at the master plan at Swamwood, those projects are virtually done. We've taken that plan and we've knocked it down over the years with multiple funding resources. And the public sees that. I just spoke to a Rotary Club last week. About once a year, I get asked to speak for them, and they want an update on things that are going on. And people had some great questions, and we're very pleased at how we do things in the township, and that all is reflective of you folks. So your hard work, your time that you put in on a Zoom meeting on a Tuesday night, some of the decisions that you guys make, they come to fruition in forms of physical projects and in the forms of the documents that are before you tonight.
So those plans are real helpful when we go to apply for grants, and we show that we have a plan and we're acting on our plan. Also want to mention that staff also was involved in putting a new transportation plan. We also have a new recreation plan. So 4 new documents, plus we got non-point source going. This has accomplished a lot recently in terms of documentation and planning, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at other communities reaching out to staff at the township for assistance because they see what we're doing here. So it's always a nice pat on the back. And if they're not asking for direct assistance, they're asking for copies of documents. And I'm sure Ryan's phone will be going off the hook once we get this MPS grant, because it's a great source, and you have to find sources. The township's limited in different ways than a city is, or other types of municipalities, because of our millage cap, and we don't have a traditional downtown per se. So we have to really be creative with using taxpayer dollars wisely, and I think we've done that, and that's reflected in the documents. It's reflected in the comments that are made at public meetings that were used, where those comments are put into the master plan. So it's not just the thoughts that were put in the policy, but the actual comments from people are listed in the plan, and I think that's important. Regardless of whether you think the street should be plowed quicker, or if you think there should be a dog park or NTN, trailhead off of Grove Street, all of those things eventually get prioritized. And if they make it to the top, then they start to, research some funding and some scope on them. So yeah, I think the planning commission has done a great job of it, and staff has been, prepared to react to whatever is available at the time.
Very professional looking job. Really nice.
Thank you.
Both of you really deserve a lot of credit. Really looks good.
Any other comments? Well, thank you, planning staff, for putting all those documents together for us.
Yeah, planning's fun, zoning not so much.
Yeah, that's one of the truest comments. Both fun to work in, but or work through, but in their own realm.
Yeah,
I'm
Ryan.
happy to have been part of more of this, long range, medium range planning, at least at the tail end portion of some of these documentations. And it's been fun to learn what projects have been planned for and now implemented and come to fruition. I guess I'm looking forward to the next one.
Nice. Okay, shall we move on to correspondence? I'm sorry, we did correspondence. Reports, Township Board report, Mr. Wiegand?
Yeah, we've got, first, we didn't have the rec committee meeting was canceled. The next one is the 17th, I believe, of this month. The road committee meeting for November was canceled. The next meeting is the 1st. And then the board meeting for November 4th, they approved a supervisor, treasurer, clerk, and trustee salary increase of 2.5% effective January 1st, 2021. And then they had a discussion concerning the vacant trustee position, which is effective November 20th. It quickly became apparent that there were more questions than answered with respect to filling that vacancy. Legal will continue to research the issue, and the board will readdress that agenda item at their November 17th meeting. It was passed to allow virtual meetings for all township boards, commissions, and committees through 2021 with certain restrictions. And basically, as long as the pandemic is in place, we can conduct virtual meetings. Then the board approved 2 recycling grants for the purchase of 64-gallon recycling carts for distribution to the township residents. Further information on how that's going to be handled and how they're going to be distributed will be made to the residents. They anticipate a May distribution, so they've got some time to get that information out. Then the board approved the development of the road rehabilitation RFP by staff based on the road committee's 2021 recommendations. And finally, the board approved a purchase and installation of an electronic entry system at the towns. And initially, the entry system will be installed at the south side entry, which is the side entry into the offices that comes off the employee parking lot. And the other one will be at the entry door adjacent to Andrew's desk. It's inside of the double doors. It's going into the offices proper, that wooden door right next to her desk. But that is it for the board, unless somebody's got some questions.
How about the road committee meeting or report, Mr. Wiegand?
That's the one I said was canceled.
Okay,
The November 4th road committee meeting was canceled, and the next one's scheduled for December 1st.
and we also got the approval for next year's rehabilitation too, so thank you. Rec committee report. The rec committee was canceled in October. Next, Mr. Wiegand has pointed out, Tuesday, November the 17th at 5:30. I do have an agenda here that we're going to discuss the ice rink roof potential, patio rain runoff, creating a drop in ground level. We've got a follow-up on the recreation millage. We have committee vacancies on the rec committee. And let's see what else. We also want to talk about winter cities. When I learned from MAP, Michigan Association of Planning Conference, and also from Patrick Coleman up in Houghton area. And then also, a winter maintenance plan for parks and pathways. What are we going to keep open? It'd be nice to have there, Jason and Ryan, nice to have a map that we can look at what potentially we can do, and maybe even something we can do at our parks to, open up a pathway. But anyways, I'm getting off.
Yeah, no, Andrew stopped in, Andrew Wilder stopped in today, and I was gonna relay that to Ryan too, that he's working on that. I think he'll be working on that with Ryan to come up with some kind of, routes or plan, kind of like a Pac-Man type of scenario as far as gobbling up snow and getting rid of snow. So, yeah, we'll have something prepared. I hope it'll be by next Tuesday, but yeah, we should be able to put together a pretty simple map. And then the other map I was going to ask Ryan to put together for the rec committee, and I think it'll help with the DDA too, is just a map that shows all of our existing trails that are proposed. And when I say trails, I do mean the sidewalks on, Warner and Ontario. We know Ontario, is going to go all the way to Wright Street at some point. We know we have that expanded shoulder on West Fair that would qualify as a pathway. but we have other things too, like undeveloped easements, a small piece of property behind Menards, a sliver of property that I constantly walk past because I walk my dogs down there. And it's just such a neat vantage point up from the top there. So the trail can come out there on our heritage trail, go up on top there. You can have a little picnic table or something up there, and then you just come back down and go back on the trail. It's kind of a neat little spot. But all of those, to get those documented on a map, because we have done in the Safe Routes to Schools, another route that, regardless of where the funding came from, it is essentially a non-motorized pathway. We have the potential, obviously now we have the pathway coming from the Honor Heritage Trail to the tunnel. We have the tunnel coming out of the tunnel all the way over to Wright Street. And then I think we're successful, fingers crossed, with the tap route that'll allow the pathway on the north side of the highway from Wright Street over to Commerce. So then the benefit of doing this, and just for Ryan's information too, is to see where your gaps are at and to see what projects really warrant to be done next. Obviously, the connection from US 41 to Werner on the east side of Commerce is a hot button segment, because that would really enclose, if you will, or you get to another signalized intersection. You can either go south on Commerce and down 492 over towards Swinwood. So yeah, we'll work on that. We'll get that detailed out for both the rec committee and the DDA's resource or reference.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr.
I've
Williams.
reached out to, I was just going to add, I've reached out to Buildings and Grounds to start hashing out some of their plans and put that on a visual for everybody to look at. So I think we will have something for the next rec meeting.
Yeah, I think they can on that GIS map. You know what I mean? You can turn that off and on.
Mm-hmm.
Important to certainly talk with grounds department. Mr. Wiegand.
Yeah, and in consideration of that, and just to tag on to what your question was and what Jason and Ryan were saying, we discussed it at our last work session. And in as much as the recreation millage passed by some 65%, they will have the wherewithal to add an additional person back into the maintenance crew. And as you guys are all aware, we purchased a new piece of equipment, which is a little more stout and formative to clean those sidewalks. We have a front end loader now with I think it's an 8-foot snow attaches on the front of it. And it's their plan to keep all of our existing sidewalks cleaned. I'm not sure what's going to trigger that they go out, if they're going to go out based on how much snow falls, but the plan based out of the budget hearing is that with the passage of the millage, he would be putting that in there, so that he should have the personnel necessary to use that piece of equipment to keep all of our pathways cleaned.
Nice.
I hope to be able to volunteer to use it. I think it'd be fun to go out once or twice a year and do them all.
It's a nice piece of equipment. We saw it. We got a demonstration on it before they bought it up to north, I think it is, up on 41, and it'll push the snow a long ways, and it's 8 feet wide, so it's pretty much cleaning the path on one pass, which makes a lot of difference, and it will send the snow about 50 feet. So you'll have to be careful you're not putting it off of the roadway. You'll have to angle the chute, put on the road right away.
Or throw it through somebody's front window.
Yeah, something like that.
All right. We have recreation millage results. Who would like to?
kind of pat the rec committee and the planning commission on the back, and the board too, for having the wherewithal to, see the benefit of placing that on the agenda to help fill a gap that we have. And it couldn't be more timely with the snow coming up, and not only does Building and Grounds take care of the township hall, the public works department, fire department, the parks, the pathways. I mean, they have a lot going on, and they're both firefighters and EMTs. So it's nice to get them some help. If anybody needs help with the township, I believe it's that department, and it's nice to see that the community supported. You know, keeping up with maintenance and realizing I guess the benefit of that. To the tune of 67% of the vote was in favor. So that's pretty strong.
And it's really good to see that the community supports basically what we've been doing, what we've been putting in, installing, and now we got to maintain it. So thank you. Marquette Township Recycling Grant update. I believe that's Mr. Dietrichson. He's been involved with that.
Yep, and Dave alluded to it a little bit earlier in his board report, but we were able to apply for and receive 2 individual grants, which would allow for the purchase and reimbursement of recycling carts, as opposed to our current bin system that's used throughout the township for garbage and recycling customers. So there's 2 grants. There's one through an organization called the Recycling Partnership, which reimburses $15 per cart, then also gives some money for education and outreach purposes. And there's the Eagle Recycling and Organics Infrastructure Grant, which we were a little weary as far as if we were going to receive full funding. They were a little wishy-washy with COVID going on in state funding, but they did come back with full funding, which is really the only way that this would have worked. Grants work simultaneously together really well. The Recycling Partnership Grant would essentially be allowed to be used for the 20% match on the Eagle grant. So when all is said and done, we're anticipating the township isn't out any more than right around $2,000, I think hovering right around there after final reimbursement. So I think we're anticipating that carts to roll out sometime spring, May, depending on contractor availability and just, timelines for working through some things. But the township board did hear a quick spiel about that at their last meeting, questions, and they eventually moved forward with signing the grant agreements and allowing staff to continue working on both those grants. So we should be seeing some new carts sometime early to mid 2021.
So Ryan, so every resident will get one of these free?
Yeah, essentially, every current paying customer for garbage collection and pickup, everyone who's paying that fee will be receiving a cart for free, and the township will be retaining ownership of them. We're going to anticipating hopefully a small inventory for future growth or replacements. We'll have to work something out there as far as if the resident would be able to get a replacement free of charge, some fine details like that. But essentially the grants would allow for the carts to get delivered right to the home, no charge. We're not making any profit off of it. We're just, giving it to the residents, encouraging recycling, and hopefully it'll make our community look a little bit more streamlined in the recycling days, the garbage days that happen weekly.
So are customers able to buy a second cart, and if so, at what price?
Not through, because we are kind of limited as to how many carts we can purchase at one time. So any extras that we might have, we're not being reimbursed for those. I do know, at least I've heard that North Country, I think folks can buy a cart from North Country. I don't know if that's at cost or a little bit above, the price for that. I don't know exact details, but I think that is an option if a customer does want an extra cart.
So the carts are going to work with North Country Disposal, apparently.
Yeah. Yep.
Do they have a new mechanism on the truck that picks these up and dumps them, or?
Yeah, they're putting tippers on the back of all their trucks currently. I think there's a couple, a few other communities at North Country, contracts with, and some of these communities are getting carts as well. So they're on board with it. I think they like the idea of, their haulers not bending over every single time and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Injuries.
It'll be a good-
Mr. Ferraro, you had a question you wanted to ask.
Oh, yeah, well, you answered that. One question was, do they have a pickup for the carts? And you said yes. And then what was the total amount of the grants, and what's the rough ballpark estimate of the number of carts that it pays for?
So the Eagle grant is funding of about 69,000, and the total match required for that is about 13,000. The recycling partnership is up to an amount of about 24,000, but they'll obviously get scaled down to what our actual order would be. Number of carts is sitting at about 1,500 right now.
Wow.
But we were anticipating like maybe 1,550. I think it works out better, if we kind of scale that down a little bit.
Okay.
About 1,450 customers currently, right about.
For under 100,000, sounds like.
What's that?
I say for under $100,000 cost.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That'll be about 70. Yeah.
Everybody will get a workout just getting it to the curb. That's also another benefit.
Yeah. And that were some comments too. Still use your bin if you like the bin, though. You can still use the bin.
I use a two-wheel cart to get my garbage and my bins out at the same time. So this will be maybe an improvement.
Everyone's got their own little
Right.
way of doing it. That's all I got, though.
Any other questions for Ryan? All right, we're on to F, Climate and Health Mini Grant Application Update.
Yeah, I guess I touched on that earlier with the kiosk, the educational kiosk that we're going to apply for. That'll dovetail in with our scope items from the MNRTF portion of the underpass grant. So there's a couple more items that we need to install there. We are in the process of applying for an extension until next year on those scope items, just because everything's been pretty crazy with COVID and getting contractors, lined up and things delivered. But yeah, look forward to that, hopefully next spring. Once the application has been sent in, I'll make sure that, CC you on that or put it in the correspondence for the next meeting. So you can see exactly what I was talking about.
Thank you, Jason. Last thing under reports is DDA. The DDA had a meeting last night at 5:30. My internet went out about 5:20. I drove in and sat in Manager Kangus's office in the back. They're discussing, they actually are going to work with a contractor. There's a mat Trito. I'm not sure what company that's with. I'm sure Jason and Ryan may know, but to put together a lighting plan or to put together some cost estimates for increasing the lighting along US 41. As you know, or may not know, that there was a study done in 2016, a lighting study done. And so we're looking at that and saying, okay, we got the plans here. Let's move forward with some of these goals. So in addition to that, I helped work with the bylaws. Basically, I stole things from the Planning Commission bylaws and I put them in the DDA bylaws, and they seem to like it. But I guess that's all I can report. I know one thing, Mr. McCarthy sent an email. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to read that to him due to the getting there late, but he's recommending that the DDA actually create a master plan, so that very much like the planning commission, like the township, the DDA needs to have a thorough plan. And I agree. And also Ms. McCarthy has volunteered to help with that. So thank you. So that's my report from the DDA. Any questions? Hopefully not. Okay. Announcements. The announcements. Mr. Wiegand.
Just to let everybody know that the events committee is still putting on the Christmas tree lighting. It's going to be on November 24th at 6 o'clock. I'm not sure exactly all the details on how it's going to be done, whether it's going to be in the mall or if it's going to be out in the parking lot with the new restrictions. But just to let everybody know that 6 o'clock on the 24th, there is going to be a tree lighting
Where is that going to be, David?
in the Westwood parking lot.
Westwood, okay.
Just west of,
It's actually right between Aspen Dental and Applebee's.
Okay.
I'll make sure I let Pete LaRue know that you made that announcement for him, Mr. Wiegand.
Okay, I'm sure you appreciate it.
Any other announcements? I don't know whether, okay, let's, no more announcements. Public comment. Do we have anything, email, anybody besides us? Doesn't look like it. That moves us to number 12, additional comments the planning committee to make. Mr. Wiegand.
Just to let everybody know that this is, it's been a little hectic the last couple months. I am not returning as a trustee to the board at the end of this month. My term expires on November 20th. And with that, my term as a planning commissioner, because I'm there as the planning commission or the board rep to the planning commission, that also expires on November 20th. So this will be my last meeting. And my appointment to the rec and road committees expires on December 31st. And I just want to let everybody know that in light of some of the things that are going on in my life personally, I'm going to have to re-retire. I've got my 10-year-old daughter who has asthma is doing online schooling, and it's not a matter of sitting down in front of a computer for 3 or 4 hours for her. It's a matter of somebody has to be there in the mentor capacity. That's me. It takes me about 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And in addition to that going on, I've got a granddaughter that's 25 down in Florida that is going through a battle with colon cancer. So that's taken up the rest of my time. So I think it's in my best interest to rearrange my priorities and family up front. And that means that I'll be stepping out of the political limelight for a while. I would like to say to you guys, it's been a privilege to serve on the planning commission, and it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I guess we'll see you around. I'm just going to wander off into the sunset.
I think the sun will follow you, Wiegand. We'll know where you're at.
That's possible.
inbox.
Okay, with that also, hopefully everyone on the planning commission knows that at the end of December, and I guess we only have one more meeting, will be my last meeting as a planning commissioner. I'm also retiring from the road committee and the rec committee. I do hope to stay on with the DDA, but that's going to be the limit of my involvement. And I don't have nearly as good of excuses as Mr. Wiegand. It's just after 15 years of volunteering, and it's been great. It's been a great ride. I've learned a tremendous amount of stuff, great people to work with. It's always been fun, working as a team to whether it's installing a warming building or putting in new pathways and whatever. It's always been fun to work together with this planning commission and the rec committee and the road committee. There's a lot of things that have been accomplished because of teamwork, and I've enjoyed that tremendously. So my last meeting will be next meeting.
Well, as the new kid on the block, I want to say that I was just getting used to Dave's irascible charm. And now I hadn't desert us. I'm really, I'm sad. I genuinely sad about it. I learned a lot just listening to you, Dave. And I'm the best to you. And I hope maybe I can meet you for breakfast at Remy's some morning. A shot in the beer maybe or something. I don't know. Anyway, but I really, yeah. And as far as Mike goes, I mean, we got time to say goodbye to you. You're going to be here for another month. I mean,
Yeah.
Jeez.
Start working on it. Okay. You got a month to get ready to say goodbye to me.
I'd like to add a couple of things too. I mean, there's going to be a big void in this commission. You know, I've learned a lot from Dave. Dave dots every I and crosses every T, and I hope I can at least, you know, have a little bit more of that in my my regards on the committee. And Mike, you know, I work with Mike on the ZBA as well, and Mike's always been just an amazing mentor to me as well. So I'll miss both you guys. It's great to see Jim.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that Jim's kicking. I'm
Living
thrilled.
to tell about it.
So it's going to be me, Jim, and Denny. We're going to hold the fort down, but you know it's not going to be easy.
The
Three
three
person from the township board that they've named already to the planning commission. Has that been done yet, or is that still up in the air?
I don't think so. Benny was the last appointment. I understand that Supervisor Durant has a young lady that she would like to convince to come in.
I was talking about Dave's position on the board as a board representative. Has there been somebody from the board?
Oh, okay.
No, that won't happen until sometime after the November 17th board meeting. And that's a supervisor recommendation and a board appointment.
Okay.
But
All
yeah,
right.
my position will be filled by somebody from the board, and the supervisor is looking at somebody that she has an eye on to replace the fifth person.
Okay. Well, it's not going to be the same, so we're going to be really counting on Ryan and Jason now.
Well, you know, I appreciate it, Steve, but that's some of the things that entered into my decision is if I couldn't get prepared the way I need to be prepared for my own self because of all the other things I got going on, I would just be absolutely miserable. And if you can't enjoy it, there's kind of no point in it.
Well, I always liked it, Dave, because you were carrying the weight for everybody else, so it made it easy. I agree with Dave.
I appreciate it, Steve.
Well, I just congratulate Jason and Ryan on these booklets here. They're very professional, first of all, and anybody else that had a hand in preparing them. And I'm really sorry to see Dave go as well. We're losing our motion maker, first of all. And I've learned so much from you also, and you've been a mentor to me as well. And good luck with everything, and I hope everything goes well in your life, and you might be back sometime soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. You never know when this all gets straightened out. I might just feel the need.
And it feels good to be back here too after 3 weeks in the hospital, I'll tell you that. Still got the oxygen, but hopefully that's gonna be gone next week.
So you had COVID, Jim?
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Got it from one of our employees
Wow.
at work. So yeah, it wasn't much fun. My wife had it too.
Oh, boy.
Here, she's my nurse.
She's hiding. That's a typical wife.
Hey, Joe.
She's been my nurse since I've gotten back, but she had COVID as well, but she hardly had anything happen to her. So
Yeah.
good.
You're probably the closest person to me, Jim. that I know that has been affected in such a bad way. I know others have had
Yeah,
virtually no symptoms or a sniffle and a cold, but I had no idea you were in the hospital. Geez.
yeah, it was hard 4 days there for a while. The oxygen was pretty low.
Well, I'm glad you bounced back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You look great.
Well, any other comments from planning commissioners?
I'll throw a couple out there.
Or,
You know,
yeah,
Dave, I didn't know, and being the consummate professional that you are, I didn't know the extent of things that are going on in your life. I know that we spoke on the phone last night. And I was jabbing you for not re-upping and doing that, but I appreciate, you indicating, and you should always, family first, right? So it's a difficult time for staff right now too, because we're working remotely, then we're in the office, and it doesn't feel right now. It just feels weird. And I'm sure Ryan can attest to that too. There's no rhythm at work. And thankfully there's not, other than wrapping up some of these longer term documents and getting your zoning text amendments to the board, we're cleaning offices and staying busy how we can. And there's still some day-to-day stuff too, but Ryan and I's job is to work with whoever's sitting in those seats, and we will continue to do so in a professional way. But I can tell you, in my 15 years, I haven't met two more dedicated volunteers or stewards of the community. Not only has Dave and Mike served on committees and did the meetings, but they're also the ones putting in infrastructure and getting the word out and doing those kind of things. So it's going to be hard for us too, because every time you get a good group together and you get a bunch of stuff done, at least from a planner's perspective, that time comes to an end and that there's another cycle that hopefully starts up. But the challenge is nowadays is that, people's time is the new commodity. I always say that. But it gets harder and harder to find folks. And Lynn, Supervisor Grant, and I had a discussion about this the other day, about how to reach out and get people involved in the community. And thankfully with you two, we haven't had to do that because you've been so instrumental in so many of these projects. The underpass started off with a line on the map, and now it's a multi-million-dollar project that's been done and completed in our community with no taxpayer dollars. And that was something that I'm proud of. I know that you're proud of. And yeah, there comes a time when, these kind of legacy groups are together for a while and they do great work. And then, at some point that it's going to end. And it might as well be 2020 because it can't get any crazier than it has been this year on many, many fronts. But yeah, I wish you guys the best. I know that there'll be some more formal send-offs for both of you at some point, but I guess from my perspective, it's been, a great learning curve on my behalf. You guys keep me on my toes and Ryan on his toes. And we hope to be able to find folks that have half your, panache and desire to get things done. We can educate and push people, but it really has to come from the residents, because staff can only do so much without the support and the common vision that's generated from these types of committees and commissions. That's really where it all comes together. So I just want to thank you guys, obviously, for what you've done for our community, but what you've done for me, personally and professionally too. It's reciprocated, and the reason why you have other communities reaching out for our services or for some advice is because of the collaboration and the positive relationships that we form, not only with our residents and our committees and our commissions, but with our regulatory agencies and our grant agencies. And when they see that you have positive things going along, they want to be a part of that. They, MDOT wants to have, the DNR wants to have their plaques up in our community because they see that we've taken it seriously and that we're trying to improve the quality of lives for our residents. So you guys are, both of you two are responsible for so much, and I appreciate them doing that.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks. Jason, did you, I think I mentioned it to you the other day about that gentleman that sat in on the board meeting. I wonder if you had a chance to see if Lynn had gotten his name and contact information. He looked like a very promising candidate, and he looked like he had a lot of it in something like the planning commission or that empty board position.
I haven't, but I will either review the Zoom meeting myself, or I'll ask Lynn if she copied down the information. But
Yeah, just a little bit that he talked and we talked to him. He looked like a very promising individual.
I also been talking to Travis Alexander about getting on the rec committee, so I'll work on that.
I got one for the rec committee too. A friend of mine I went in the Marine Corps with, Tom Fury, and his family, young family, moved into Trowbridge. It's been 2 years now that they've been here, but I told him that he couldn't say no, so we'll see how far.
Oh, good. Yeah, I understand that Todd Caruth doesn't want to be chair next year. I think he still wants to be on the rec committee, but I think he would like somebody else to be chair. Anyways. Well, gentlemen, it's good seeing you.
Good to be seen.
There you go. A bit proud to be seen.
Yeah,
Congratulations, you're a tough guy.
yeah. I mean,
All right, guys.
Good night,
Good night. See you next
hey,
month.
Dave.
Yeah. Bye.
or sooner.